So should we just crack on and just start with?
Yes, go for it. Yeah. Yes, my name is Benjamin Hume, MD of Evolve Block and Estate Management. We've been going about 10 years now. We've got our head office in Ringwood, the New Forest. We've got office in Southampton and the West End of London. So pretty much the sort of the M27 A31 corridor through to Dorset, and then up the M3 pretty much to Soho, and then sort of London and the sort of southern home counties. So generally speaking, anything within about an hour of one of our offices will cover. But we're focused on sort of quality of sites, not so much turnover and just packing them in through the door. So we're very much a select organisation. So we'll interview the clients as much as they interview us, sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of where we've grown.
10 years, almost 10 years. Wow.
I know. That'd be where the grey hair's from, It's fine.
Can't see it.
I don't dye it, I promise. Yeah, but obviously I'm the front of house at the Leasehold Management Professionals event, LMP, which having an amazing couple of years. We had our second London event recently, which we did. We didn't normally do London. We did Bournemouth, Brighton, and Bristol. But we kept getting pestered by the London agents going, can you bring your brand of magic to London? So we were like, all right.
Definitely is working, right? People are attending and it's successful as well. So well done.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been really, really good. And a lot with the feedback has been fantastic because there are CPD events in London, but ours is £25 a ticket. That's it. We do it all for free. Myself, Nick Basra, who brings the accounts, Matt Lewis brings the legal, and Zoe Southwell brings the recruitment. So between the four of us, we kind of have the four pillars of what we do. And we do it just because we want to give back, But £25, the reason why it's so successful is because that price point means you can bring your entire office, you can bring your administrators, all sorts. So we're trying to break down the barriers for learning. And we have a couple of sponsors, and without them, we wouldn't be able to do it. But £25 for an afternoon of CPD, lunch and drinks afterwards. I mean, I couldn't even get a main course for that in London. So there's no reason why people shouldn't come. It's not salesy. It's just, I'm on the stage doing all the hosting. So you have to put up with my appalling dad jokes. But otherwise, it's fine, and people really appreciate what we do.
So tell me about your day. How does your day start? What are you doing? Do you go to sites? Do you work from the office every day? How's it?
Oh God. Do you know what? I don't have a typical day anymore. It's my day consists of whatever I open my email inbox to, and whoever shouting the loudest. So today is insurance day because we've got our portfolio renewal coming.
Big.
I know, insurance way. We've got our mass portfolio renewal coming up end of June. So we've started the process of arranging the reinstatement cost assessments that are they've ticked over into the 4 years. We want to get them done prior to terms being issued so the valuations are up to date. And we're redrafting a new document for clients to sign to enable us to do insurance work and be very clear on the fees. So I'm having to I spent the last 2 hours just drafting some legal documents, which I do enjoy drafting legal stuff, as Matt reminded me. But I'm very good at it, which is very helpful. So we're going to have I think about a 12-page document which explains what we do, why we do it, and how much it's going to cost you. And we're going to roll that out because the management agreement, whilst does say, we've told you what we charge, doesn't really go into much detail. And our clients deserve to know, especially in the current climate, what they're getting for their commission, that although they're not paying, they are paying that commission. And they need to know what they're getting for it. So there's that. That'll probably take me, I reckon, probably till close of play tomorrow, actually. So that's my 2 days sorted out. Ordinarily, it'd be speaking to my management team, going to the occasional site visit or site meeting for the big juicy clients or big juicy projects that are going on. All know. I mean, I think about a couple of months ago, I was at a emergency insurance call out at midnight and the site until 6 a.m. With sewage explosions and water pumps being turned off. So I'm never really off duty. I'll do what's required of me to keep everything going and keep the staff happy.
Yeah.
But my argument is I would never ask my staff to do something that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. And I like to evidence that now and again.
These are good values. And you've just mentioned earlier about insurance and reinstatement costs and the management agreement. So I find management agreements are just growing with pages by the day. So you've also mentioned that you're preparing a separate document for the insurance. Would you do that for most of the services that are kind of such insurances? And
I think in just insurance on its own, I think things like major works and other things are quite straightforward. You can just do a quite simple fee matrix in the appendix of the management agreement. But insurance, where it's regulated, where the winds of change are suggesting that, commission is on its way out. The law was technically passed, but it's not been brought into play. It needs regulation. What that regulation looks like and when or if that actually happens, I don't know. So we need to just use this as an opportunity, because we're in a little bit of sort of no man's land at the moment, where you can move to fee charging model. You don't have to, but you could do. But it may eventually happen. So we're like, well, let's just assume that it's going to become a fee charging model. So let's write something to justify the fees that we make.
yeah,
Because once it becomes a fee, it's technically subject to Section 19, the reasonableness test. We have to stand up in the tribunal and go, we've taken this much money because of this. So we have to be comfortable to stand up in front of a tribunal and go, we've charged this fee because of that. So we're like, well, that's the benchmark we should be adhering to. So I'm going to have to go out of my way to do this document to make me go to sleep at night better.
And it takes many hours to liaise with all the parties involved, isn't it?
It does. It's statement of fact, reviewing a statement of fact. Have they got the construction right? You'd be surprised how many times we've inherited a document, a statement of fact. We've gone through and go, hang on a minute. It says 3 stories and it's 4.
Yeah.
It says flat roof, but it's pitched. It's made of concrete. No, it's timber. So, my experience, I have to go through and review the statement of facts. What's the claims history like? I go, hang on a minute. I remember that claim 2 years ago. Why is that not on there? And it's just disclosure, but it's getting people that know what they're doing. Reinsuring your car is very different to reinsuring your block.
Okay. There's
so many ways that you can fall foul of it. And if you don't get it right, you are in a lot of trouble. Or at worst, your claim is denied and suddenly the directors are in breach of the lease.
Yeah.
So it's like there's many tripwires, and my job is to create a map to spot where all the tripwires are, and so you know where to step over them.
There are many policies that I've seen the directors would do themselves that are bypassing so many things that I'm like, well, this is not listed. This is, you can't do that. And then you have 1 or 2 active directors usually in a block, and the rest are not even checking. And then no matter whether I say, we should increase this, we should add this, they're just not listening. But how do we change that? How do we change? So obviously you have the policy, and when you deal with that, you are, totally in control. But for some agents like us that are dealing with smaller building and it's difficult to put your voice loud out there, and directors to listen, is obviously it's not compliant, right? If anything happens to the building, the insurer may say, well, you didn't tick that box. Right.
I think that's the hardest part, is getting them to look at their statement of facts, because theoretically we can't approve a policy without the client saying yes. Mm-hmm. So we're going to turn around and go, can you read the statement of facts and tell me if anything on there differs? And they go, well, we don't know what the construction is made of. We don't know how many people this. We don't know this. And I'm thinking to myself, but you're a director of the residence management. This is exactly what you should know. It's not just coming on to screw down the budget and not spend any money. You do have an obligation to know your site. You should know exactly what the roof construction is, what the building construction is. You should know your claims history, because you'll be the one that has to stand up at the tribunal panel if you get it wrong and it all goes south. And I think this is where the appointment of directors can be very much, it's very much a political thing. So people want to be a director, but they don't know what that actually means. Is it to do with just coming on to spend as little as you can, including insurance premiums? And we're here going, no, as a director, you have a lot more to know than just what the finances are. Like now, for example, in Canada, RMC directors are personally liable for their decisions. Whereas over here, limited liability company, director can, to a certain extent, other than corporate manslaughter, get away with murder to a point, and they just resign, and that's it. They walk away. So we need a way to bring these directors in and actually teach them what it actually means. What does this stuff mean in an insurance policy? What is terrorism insurance? Because as you say, every time we talk about terrorism cover, we just get, oh, well, hang on, we don't need terrorism cover. There's no bomb's going to go off. It's fine. And I'm like, well, imagine there's someone living in your flat that was involved in a terrorism incident 200 miles away, and they turn their bathroom into a bomb making factory, and suddenly they're evacuating the building for 2 weeks whilst they decontaminate it. That technically, that's terrorism incident. Nothing actually happened, but it's involving it. If that's declared, what are you going to do with your residents for 2 weeks whilst that's being done? And they go, well, what are the chances of that happening? And I go, what are the chances of 9/11 happening? What are the chances of the July incident happening? What are the chances of any of these happening? You don't know.
No.
But, and also, this is the clincher. Most leases will have something that says you must insure against explosion, things like that, in this technical words. If you don't have terrorism cover, you're not technically complying with those specific clauses as well. So it's not just we're just being extra cautious. It's also a lease compliance issue.
Yeah.
And again, it highlights that some directors don't read their leases properly. But that's where we're coming. That's what they pay us to do. I'm not expecting them to know the definitions of everything. They pay us to give them the right advice. And I'm glad to say that the vast majority of our directors are very grateful for the advice we give them. And we explain it to them in just real language, just basic terms. Your lease says you must insure for explosions. A bomb is pretty much an explosion. I think you would agree. It's a couple of £100 on top of your policy. It's compliant. And then they go, I actually really appreciate you taking the time to explain that to me, rather than go, look, you just need it, and here's a pamphlet as to why.
What's your best practice when there is not much information about the building or the policies kind of like there, and you will have to dig into, like you said earlier, whether it's timber, whether it's concrete, and the percentage of it, and how do you, when the building was built and so on. Some you can obviously trace, but if it's just a simple policy that you may not have statement of facts, how do you go with that?
I won't
mention the company I work with, and very, very unhelpful with like passing on the statements of fact. And I only had basically the invoice that the insurance was paid, and that was it. And then it was not a very good experience. But yeah, we had to renew with them because that was the only way to get statements of facts, whatever they had in records. But yeah, how do you go with getting all that?
I think you almost have to start from the beginning. So we've had a couple of sites like that, which are converted buildings when no one really knows what's happening. So we've gone, right, you need a reinstatement cost assessment, because the surveyors will come out, they will look at your building, they will work out what it's made from, they'll look at all the bits and pieces, because they've got to come up with a value anyway. So you almost take a statement of fact and just tear it up, throw it in the bin. And then your declared value and your report will say concrete floors or timber, it's this roof, it's that, and then that can then be submitted as part of your proposal form. So almost go, look, I don't trust your statement of fact, just bin it, get it gone. I'm just not going to work with that. Because if you submit that statement of fact, you're assuming the risk with that, and suddenly your PI is on the hook if you get it wrong. So if in doubt, get an RCA done.
Desktop one?
No. Desktop, if you've got, say, a block of 12, which is a brick-built modern building with a pitched roof, nothing ever happens, and you just need an RCA done between 3 to 5 years, there's no harm in getting a desktop valuation for that one. If you've got a converted building and there's question marks over all these things, get a face-to-face one. Get them in there. If it's a really complicated one, get them into a couple of flats as well, because you'll get a true picture.
Absolutely. I do struggle with that sometimes, because I'm trying to explain the reasons behind and why it needs to be done. But yeah, and obviously there is the cost difference, isn't it, from desktop and actually someone attending the building and carrying out all these
But one thing that we've done actually to help with that is because we moved all of our insurances to expire on one single day a year, because we place and we basically go out to tender every year to underwriters. We've gone to a specific underwriter which now looks after all of it. Because of that, they give us an allowance to undertake both physical and desktop valuations periodically for free, which again, because of the work that we do behind the scenes to help provide that best value, it does mean that we can now provide these RCAs for free for our clients. So go, yeah, you're paying this commission, you're paying that, but look what you're getting. You know, we've managed your RCA, we've worked out that it's due. Your underwriter's providing that for free for you. You know, site visits or desktop, whatever is required. That is another evidence of fair value. So it helps keep their cash flow down, especially for small blocks when they can't afford, you know, 350 or 400 quid for an RCA. But it helps because it gives them that information. They feel like they've got something out of this transaction as well. We also make sure that we've got an up-to-date declared value, so everyone wins.
Yeah. And you've mentioned earlier that you are woken up at midnight and had to go and deal with emergency. Tell me more about that. What happened? Sounds like that.
It was that night of the day after the property management awards last year. So obviously you can imagine what time the entire team was out that morning. So we all got back at some point. We then most of my staff were just worse for wear. But the emergency line, they phoned me and they phoned Helen.
Yeah.
Essentially, they couldn't get hold of Helen and they couldn't get hold of other my staff. Quite rightfully so. We got some shortlistings, we got some awards. It was great and everyone had a really good time. But obviously, being the boss, when the out of hours phone rings, it's one of those things. I can't unsee it now. I'm like, okay, what's happened? And his words were, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Oh, that doesn't sound good." So he said, "You know, we've got this issue where there's been a sewage, a explosion is probably the best way I can describe it without being too explicit. And because of where it was above a large room in the basement, and that large room contains the consumer units which power the freshwater pumps and the lifts for the entire site of 50 flats. So obviously that switched the pumps off, which meant no one had fresh water, and the lifts weren't working, all communal lights. So it's like, but we can't access some of it. So my words were, I'm going to need to come out, and I think I'm going to need to probably wake a director up, and we're going to have to look at potentially breaking into flats if we can't, because it's an emergency at this point." So at midnight, bear in mind, I just got settled in after a nice night the night before, and I'm there at midnight going, okay, jumping in my car, got there about 12:30, and yeah, I'm glad I brought my boots with because I was wading around in what you can imagine.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had to get hold of, I had to ring around the directors. Eventually got one of the directors out of bed. Bless him, he was a bit hungover, probably still a bit tipsy, bless him, but he appreciated me coming out, and we talked through the situation, went through it. We worked out the flats we needed to get access to. One of them was away, but they said we can pick the lock, it's fine. One of them we just couldn't get hold of in any way, shape or form, but theirs was the blockage. And we had no choice. We had to use emergency powers to get in. But I got the director to send me an email on his iPad there and then, authorising me to do it. Very important. If you can get that authorisation, do it. And explain to them under the terms of the lease which covenant under the lease that we are enacting or wishing to enact to help us get that job done. So yeah, eventually we got in there. Took so long to get it sort of temporarily fixed and sorted, and holes in walls, all sorts of stuff. Someone had to get their kitchen ripped out. But the problem is, because of what happened to consumer unit, no one had fresh water. So there's me at 3:30 a.m. phoning our usual emergency out of hours water people, who are like, yeah, we can send you 2 pallets of water from our usual place we've got a contract with. Again, this pays to have these contracts in place. You never know when you need to get emergency water at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah.
All I say
on LinkedIn because everyone is sleeping.
it was, and then but they had to load it, and then I think they turned up at about 6 a.m. in the end. But between 4 and 6, I'm just sat around just trying to pass the time. Went to the drive-through McDonald's around the corner, and the only other people at the drive-through McDonald's, I was flanked by police cars both front and rear because they're the only other people up at that time of the morning. Bless them. Got back, unloaded the water. We sent a message around on our portals to everyone saying, look, this is the situation. Here's the update. Here's some water. The contractors have done what they can. They'll be back later on in the day during daylight to finish off. So yes, I was at the site for 6 hours the day after our property management awards, and those who saw me there knew that I was out celebrating for quite a while. But that's just what you have to do as a property manager. You know, I'm first and foremost a property manager before I'm the MD. So I have to be prepared to do what needs to be done. And it helps me stay mentally fresh. You know, I have to read leases. I have to know these things. I have to understand case law. I have to understand insurance claims, getting loss assessors out, all these sorts of things, which means that I'm not just a business owner that just hides out the back. You know, I do my best to be on the front line to provide that knowledge base from staff.
Absolutely. And then obviously you left and you had all the other services in such cleaners and electricians. And how long did they work, like all day to clean up?
It took, I think the whole thing took about 3 weeks to resolve in the end. We had to have new carpets, new walls, electricians out. The primary thing we had to do was get the water on as quick as we could and get the lifts working, because it was 6 stories. Obviously, we had to be very conscious of vulnerable people further up the building. So for us, it was making sure that the lift had access to people with fresh water. We actually just ended up ripping the carpets up. Said anything that's contaminated, just rip it up, get it gone, and then wait for the inevitable loss adjuster to come out and just agree with us that it's an absolute state and here's a check, and just, you're covered, do what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 weeks. Wow. It must have been, many hours of.
I mean, it was difficult because one of the flats couldn't be lived in for 3 weeks because it was his bathroom that he had to rip out. His kitchen, sorry. So he had to be put up in alternative accommodation for a while, which, again, the policy covered because they accepted it. The statement of fact was correct. So that's an example when, if you do your job right, the insurance didn't flag up any issues, very happy, paid out, said, no, you've done what you could. You were out there at midnight trying to mitigate the risk as best you could. So we're happy that you've done what you could.
So what was exactly the issue? Because obviously the pump is maintained, the drains are maintained. What was the issue of that explosion?
It's because it's built into an embankment that slopes down. The way they've done the pipe work, there's lots of opportunities for bends and corners and twists and turns. And unfortunately, the vast majority of these issues are caused by people flushing stuff down they shouldn't be flushing. And
how important that is.
It's wet wipes, and with some sites we've had blockages where we've had to pull out nappies. It's just, I don't get it, but there we go. And I think this development's about 15 years old, and I will admit that a lot of the developments in the last 20 years, their waste pipework and plumbing systems are not robust enough to deal with it. They're plastic push fit connections. There's, as soon as pressure builds up, pop, whereas before they were a lot more robust. But it's a sign of the times. But I do think escape of sewage and escape of water is definitely going to be that is the ticking time bomb. That is the reason why premium's gone up. It's not cladding, it's not fire, nope, it's escape of water. That is the sole reason why premiums are skyrocketing. But we won't talk about that because it's not sexy like cladding and fire, which and because it happens inside people's flats, there's very little we can do about it.
I had a call with Colin from Odiva, and actually his stats were showing that the most calls they got was for leaks, escape of water. And I'm also having someone just as a guest to talk about only that. So that would be interesting, but it is something that we need to bring to attention to everyone. We have a building here nearby. The office, 21 units, and they've had 3 flats or 4 flats that were affected, drains backed up into flats. One went to about £70,000 worth of repairs, replacing kitchen and everything. And that's the reason why, things are.
And that's why the statement of fact is so important, because one of the questions they ask is how many properties are unoccupied, tenanted, or other. And the reason why they ask that question is if the property is unoccupied, then they're not going to spot a leak early on. They'll only know you'll only know about it when it affects the flat below. which is why something that could have been solved quickly by the person if they were living there, suddenly they're not, and it's now a £15,000 claim. So again, statement of fact, go back to that. It's so important that you present and as accurate demographic of your site, second homes, renters, owners, whatever, because that will, if you've got, say, a whole floor of flats that are now second homes, and for a fact that they're not there over winter, if a leak happens and it's originated from that flat, the insurer can go, well, you didn't declare that these flats are unoccupied for over 6 months. So sorry, we're not covered, or we'll cover you for a smaller amount, because if you told us, then we would have potentially put in there's a special clause where they say you must inspect it every so and so months. So we tell the resident, you need to inspect your property every month, for example, if you're not going to be there. But if we don't know that, because we've not been told it as a policy, because we've not declared it, this whole domino effect kicks in.
Yeah, we've prepared policies like this, and we send them on regular basis to buildings where we know that they could be a little bit problematic, asking for landlords to advise us when they have change of tenancy, who is their agent or who is living in the property. We need their details so we can also set those notices to them directly. And it's proven difficult, but again, it comes to having these drain issues and unpleasant drain issues that are caused by the resident themselves, the tenants or owners. It is something that we're trying to change and send regular notices, but it just doesn't look like we are heard. So how do you manage communications at Evolve?
So we've been quite tech heavy over the last couple of years. So we about 4 years ago, we invested in Cube, which, considering the size of the business 4 years ago, everyone around me said, "You're nuts. Are you made of money?" And I said, "No, this is investment," because I saw the benefit of all the portals and APIs that can plug into the system, which was the main thing. So we've got Engage, which is MRI's sort of portal app on top of that. Yeah. Because it's by them, it's going to be an app. So we'll have our own app on the App Store shortly when that's finished. But the portal allows people to log in. They can see updates. They get emails about news. If we do an update going, dear sir, your lift's out for the month or the week or whatever, it can go straight out. We can also do text messages on the system as well. So that helps. We've also got the fixed flow system built in as well, so people can report maintenance. Our previous system, you had to be a registered sort of customer of ours. This system allows anyone, tenants, residents, because we want everyone to report everything at any time. Yes. Let us work out if it's something that needs to be dealt with or not. If we don't know about it, we can't fix it. And highly tenanted sites, we weren't getting that level of interaction from these other sort of well-known systems. So we moved to fixed flow because we needed everyone to have no barriers, just log on and report it. Click a light bulb.
So easy, yeah.
Just done. That's it, and it's sorted out. So we're trying to tailor what we do to make it easy for people to get in touch with us. So we have the system. The Engage system is if you're a customer, so you can view your service charge account, download documents, blah blah blah. You can also go straight into the fixed flow from that system as well. Or if you're just a tenant and you want to report that there's a light out or emergency light that's failed, or there's a barrier broken, whatever, just literally log on, get it in the account, just do it, and then that lets us know. Yeah. That also, we set it up so that everyone else who wants to then report something to that building can see, has it already been reported, and they can see the progress, so it stops duplication. And we're also moving to a new banking product where that will also talk to Cube, and that will allow automated confirmations of bank transfers via push notifications on the app once that's on the App Store. So it's all these things where people want that instant gratification for these small little workflows. I want to pay money. Have you got it? But they've made a bank transfer, sent a check in. They haven't heard, because you don't normally send a statement when you do your reconciliations. Then they phone in. They can't get out of accounts because they're in a meeting. Then it's in an email. And then suddenly you need to run a statement, or you need to do this, or you wait until the new budget's run and then it shows their statement with a credit on, whatever. Wouldn't it be just so easy if the system just went, we've received your money, thank you, without anyone having to get involved? The time saving. So yeah, communication for us is important, but it also leads into my discourse I'm having with a few people about margins and efficiency.
Yeah.
And a lot of the communication systems we're bringing in, they are designed to improve customer service and at the same time reduce their reliance on needing to speak to humans for just the basic stuff that they're currently having to email and phone in about.
Yeah, and just being able to click, 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 and it's done. It's seen
Call
everything.
it self-servicing. We want you to be able to just check your statement, log this, report that, view this, whatever. If you want to speak to property manager, yeah, they'll always be there. And the app has a chat function that allows you to, start a chat with either the chat bot, or it gets flagged up to property manager, who can then speak to you on that without needing to send, email tennis matches in and out of your email inbox.
Absolutely.
So it's trying to be smart with your time. And that's it. It's just, yeah. But one thing you can't replace, though, is the relationship the property manager has with the client and customers.
Yeah.
They don't want to have a relationship over getting a statement. But what they do want to do is at the AGM, they want to see you, they want to talk to you. And if your staff can spend more time doing year-end accounts or reporting, not spending half their day, doing copy statements or banking, then that's half a day you've now got for doing the stuff that realistically, if you gun to these clients' heads, that's what they're paying you to do. They're not paying you to sit and just tick off a bank statement.
No, absolutely. What are the most challenging parts that you're still facing as, like managing the block?
I think
Or your team?
I'm going to be honest. I know my opinion is not the most popular one. Is I think the government have made it very difficult. They have. I don't know whether they did it on purpose or whether it's just as a consequence of the way they've spoken, but they've created very much an us versus them an attitude. It's, I want to say, I think it's polarized is probably the best way I can put it. In the King's speech, he used the word punitive service charges. I go on about that word quite a lot, but that's a very significant thing to use that word. Service charges are not punitive. Service charges are a fee they pay to manage their building. Service charges aren't there to punish people. But every day or every week there's a newspaper article, service charges are making this person bankrupt. Insurance premiums are going up. Managing agents are scum and blah, 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 and all these sorts of things. When actually in reality, a 20-line budget, we get that one line at the bottom that says management fee, which, we got one site where our fees, the cleaner gets paid more than us, right? The cleaners get paid more than us.
Cleaners.
Yeah, and I'm just like, hang on a minute, sorry, we're the enemy, are we? Oh, okay, fine. And we've all taken over those self-managed buildings where you're like, how have any of you not gone to jail from the state of this site? But the problem with that is that attitude from the government and the way its language is used, it's given a sense of entitlement to leaseholders, owners, and directors. Not all of them. This is over a small minority of them. I will say. To see us as the enemy on the other side. And whether that's a harsh or stronger term, maybe, but it feels like we're always on the defense now, and we have to justify everything. From a business contract point of view, yeah, we always have to justify our fees, but now we almost have to justify our existence. But when I've had quite a few sites over the last 12 months, just really small ones, when they're a new director and gone, hang on a minute, you can't be charging us this. What's going on here? It's outrageous. Here's notice. We're going to go find someone else. Block of 7 in North Hampshire recently. And said, that's fine. Can you not talk to my staff like that? Because one of them was quite vile. And I said, not a problem. Let us know who your agents were. 2 months in, we're like, could you let us know who your agents are? And they came back, went, no one's taken us on. Agents aren't taken on the small sites anymore. If we apologise, could you? No, I said no. I'm sorry, no. This is what you want. This is how you felt you wanted to treat my staff. So you're going to have to learn to manage your site yourself. And I think that's going to become more and more and more common in our industry, where we're going to go, actually, we don't really want to manage your site because you're quite mean to us. Or if the directors are lovely, but the leaseholders or the owners are quite mean to us, then I think we're almost in a position where actually we can kind of pick and choose the clients that we want, and we can be more selective. And that's actually, it's almost going to be the opposite of what's been trying to do. So, capping fees, reducing this, binning that off. So for us, it's gone from a turnover to a margins industry. So we're now looking, actually, we make nothing from your site. So just go. we all know that we struggle to recruit property managers now, because who wants to get paid £25,000 a year to be,
Yeah.
have things thrown at them at an AGM, literally.
Yeah.
So they're just not going to do it. So we've got a recruitment crisis. So if we can't recruit any more staff and we're stuck with the existing ones we have, then we have to be more selective with what we have. We have to work on our margins, and we have to find a way that we surround ourselves by clients that enrich our lives, that we work with, that we have a good relationship with. And I'm pleased to say that I think 95% of our clients we have a really good relationship with. And also I think because of what's happening in the industry, because of the way property managers are being spoken to, and the way we're kind of seen, there's so many mergers and acquisitions happening. It's horrendous. Like every 5 minutes, another one's been swallowed up, another one's been swallowed up, or they've merged, or they've sold up, or whatever. So actually, in matter of fact, the competition is going down and down and down. And it's incredible, because it's going to reduce an awful lot of choice for leaseholders and owners of their blocks, which means it almost gives us the ability to go, well, we're the only agent left in this town now that's not one of these two massive nationals.
Yes.
If you want to work with us, then we expect you to be polite, courteous, listen to what we're saying.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are seeing what's happening as a threat, an existential threat. No. I see this as an opportunity to reset the relationship and actually give us the tools and the ability to go, we do want to work with you, but you are also going to have to abide by a moral code just as much as you expect us to.
Absolutely. We are, like, in the past few months, we've given termination to a few buildings, and most of the cases has been just one person, that it just creates such havoc in a relationship between us and them. It's like constant emails and calls are kind of bullying us, and then we can't do anything, but we also need to respond. And then we go to the directors and we'll say, we just can't entertain this anymore. We've made no money. We've actually lost money because the hours that we've put in. And it's something that, they're lovely directors and majority of the leaseholders too, but we can't be spoken this way. We can't, our work is the same with every client. We're not prioritizing, and to be treated this way is not fair. Like you said, it's not like we're getting paid, hundreds of thousands of pounds, salary wise. So it's harsh, and small buildings, I think, will suffer.
I think the below 20 flats properties, estates, they're the ones that will eventually find that they are unmanageable. And a combination of just the way those demographics work, but also because so much is being placed upon us from a compliance point of view, that so much money's got to be invested in to keep a block of flats going, that actually you won't make anything on anything less than 20 flats, because of so much investment you have to make on staff and resources just to stop yourself getting picked up by the regulator. So I think it's these small blocks that will eventually be turned to the government going, no agents will manage us.
They will manage
interestingly,
for this amount of money, which is quite high management, and they don't want to pay it.
I mean, they'll go, oh, we'll self-manage. But what I keep saying to directors, certainly ones that have been self-managed or think about self-managing, or we've encouraged them to self-manage, is everything the government are bringing out with insurance commission, all of the legislation, leasehold reform, that is technically applies to you. It doesn't apply to us. That applies to you. Our job is to interpret it and guide you through that. Everything, if the government says you must have your service charge accounts out by 6 months, you must use this new 4-page prescribed document, service charge demands. That's you, not us. We invest in the systems as an agency to help you fulfill those requirements. But everything that's passed in law applies to you. So you can't, by sacking us and doing self-managed, doesn't mean you get out of having to do all these horrible things. It just means that you now have to give up your entire weekend every weekend now to do that. So I think that will certainly be all this leasehold reform when these small blocks suddenly have to be confronted. And I think where RMCs and RTMs will then be subject to an ombudsman as well, they'll find that these directors just don't want to do it. And then not only will they not be able to get a managing agent, they won't be able to get directors. And then I think at that point, mortgage companies and mortgage lenders will start getting involved and going, sorry, we're not lending to self-managed sites because they're too risky. We don't think they're doing a good enough job.
Yep.
And at that point, the government will have to get involved and going, oh, well, we're going to need to bring in or allow people to have paid directors. And I'm like, isn't that just freehold control by the back door? Have we just done a whole 360? That's my prediction. Crystal ball, that's where I reckon we'll end up. 5-10 years, that I reckon we'll end up with freehold control almost by the back door, because no one wants to be a director anymore because of all the leasehold reform.
Oh, it's already happening. Like we've had many self-managed buildings, and they come with, it's either all of them directors or one by one are dropping down and it's like, I'm not doing this, because there is so much that they need to deal with, and so much that so many with smaller blocks is even
it's an education thing. You want to spend time with these directors, teaching them and helping them, but for a sub 20 flat block, there's just not enough management fee income for you to spend your time helping them. A block of 50, you have enough built-in sort of capacity of fee to be able to go out and let's just invite the directors to the office. And we've got a site of 100 where we actually put all the directors on the TPI How to Be a Director course, because I said, you need to do this. We'll pay for it, because this will actually be an investment for us as well. And they really appreciate it. They learned so much about actually it's more than just moaning about money. There's so much more they've got to do about it, and they really appreciate it. And I think that's where to be a director, there may be some requirement for you to be qualified, even to just foundational level 3 or something that shows that you are competent. And it's just that weird elephant in the room. And when I say this to people, they go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I said, so we've got to be qualified, ATPI, stock bricks, MRICS, all these extra things to be able to do our job, to take instructions from someone whose only qualification is they had deposit for a mortgage for a flat, and they're telling us what to do. Now, when you say that out loud, sounds ludicrous, doesn't it? But that's exactly it. We're not decision makers. I cannot place an insurance policy. I cannot instruct a major works project. I can't do any of those things. None of us can, because it's not our money.
Exactly.
We've delegated authority, but ultimately the instructions come from these directors who want to do the role. So I'm like, okay, well, the safety of all your residents is in your hands. Do you know what you're doing? And they go, well, that's what we pay you to do. I go, no. Yeah. We will take your instructions. We'll provide you best guidance, and we'll recommend things.
And staying on top of legal compliance is just, and do you guys manage high rise?
We got quite a few high rises. So that's been a challenge. And a lot of it has been exactly what you said earlier. These people just don't know what the buildings are made of. There was little. I mean, we've got one that's just under 10 years old, which is multiple blocks, all of them over the threshold, and the directors just have got no continuity of information. They don't know what the structure's made of. They don't know what the compartmentation's like. They don't know any of these things. And I said, does anyone? And they said, we didn't think we needed it. So I think it's just been lost over the years by various directors. And I'm just like, well, you're going to have to spend a lot of money trying to figure this out now. And I go, well, why should we pay that? And I go, well, speak to your local MP then. I suggest you speak to them, because they're the one that made the rules. I'm just here telling you what they've passed. You're a taxpayer, you're a voter. I suggest you speak to your representative in the House of Parliament and ask them why they've done this. Grenfell was an appalling incident, and it shone a huge spotlight on just the lack of care and attention on fire safety in our industry. And I keep saying to all of our directors and all the property managers that, this isn't a problem that just suddenly happened overnight. This is a just gradual deterioration of not just standards, but just people's willingness to care. Go, oh, it's a door, I'm sure it'll be fine. There's a wall, I'm sure it'll keep back a fire. And no one really wanted to test it until Grenfell came along. But it also shone a spotlight on things like flat front doors. They worked out that so many flat front doors were changed to plastic. Had they been fire doors, that there's so much less damage and so much less death would have taken place. But we don't talk about fire doors. It's all about cladding, just cladding. So we get very sidetracked on these sort of things that are with our responsibility. But most leases say that flat front doors are actually the owner's responsibility. But there's this reluctance to go, you need to do this, you need to do this. And even in the Building Safety Act, it didn't really specify whose really responsible for flat front doors. And they said, well, if it's the leaseholder, then it's the leaseholder.
Yeah, I love it when they replace their flat doors with just a normal door.
I think it's definitely a challenge on that one, but ultimately we're not decision makers. We're here to give them. We're consultants, I guess. As an agency, we give them the best advice, but training is how we have to constantly keep up to date on the CPD. And I'm immensely proud of our industry. There's so many amazing people that I see all the time at events that are really, really, really trying to just do the best job they can in the face of immense headwinds. And, I'll stand up at LMP events and conferences and I will extol the virtues of our industry. The vast majority of us are trying to do a bloody good job. For when you think how many hours we work and what we've got to be qualified for, a lot of them are underpaid for what we have to do. And I just, as a reminder to everyone, I think, everyone's doing a bang up job. Just stay the course, stay strong. Don't start thinking about selling up or leaving the industry. It will get better. We're moving in the right direction. Don't have a wobble and think, oh, I'm going to sell my business or move on or whatever. There is a lot of good things that can happen, and it's not a case of surviving. I think it's a case of we should be looking at thriving now.
What common mistakes do you see in property managers that are making?
It's the people management, 100%, and that's why I'm running a course with the TPI called Relationship Management. There's a lot of people that have not nurtured their art of communication and building relationships with leaseholders, residents, contractors, the local fire officer. We can be our own worst enemy sometimes, and I think property management is almost a bit of a misdescription. I think people management should be more accurate for our job. Building once or building once. If it's broken, we fix it. It's working with the people on how to fund it, how to do it, and when to do it. So relationships and getting it wrong, not picking up the phone when you should be picking up the phone, not responding on an email in a polite way, being quite matter of fact, not doing your AGMs properly, not having your directors meetings when your contract says you should do. If you get your relationships right with your stakeholders, you have no idea how easy this job can actually be. It's incredible. And it's not by virtue of us not being qualified to talk to people. We're just so busy. We neglect the people factor.
Yeah.
And if you put the effort in to build those relationships, you'd be absolutely surprised how much easier it is to get a budget passed or get those insurances passed or have a chat or have an AGM that goes really well. So that biggest mistake is we don't spend enough time nurturing those relationships.
I consider myself as a nice person and patient as well with leaseholders, but sometimes I see who's calling me and I'm dreading to pick up because I can't change that person and the way they speak to me and the way, they treat me. So how do you change that? Or how do we not let it impact me as that trying to do their job, but not understood on the other side?
For me, the phrase that I learned, I think it was Sun Tzu's Art of War, that says the best battle you can ever have is the one you don't have. And I think we're all too quick to go into battle or fight for something or push something.
Yeah.
When sometimes I think my staff I talk to and industry colleagues, and I use the word malicious compliance. And as much as I hate that term, because we're not a decision maker, if the client's adamant they want to do something, as long as it doesn't prejudice yourself, and you just have to do it. Sometimes you just have to accept their instructions, however painful it may be, as long as it doesn't jeopardize yourself, your business, or your reputation. But if it does, then you need to make a commercial decision whether it's worth having that client on your books. But I've learned that you just have to let go, and it's not a case of not caring. It's a case of understanding the position. It's just going, okay, I've told you to get a health and safety risk assessment. Can I just have it in writing? You don't want it? Absolutely fine. And a site did that, didn't want it. 3 months later, someone fell through a drain cover and they're now suing the directors. And because they didn't have a health and safety risk assessment that may have picked up on it, we're off the hook because we've recommended this is what we told you to do, and we've got our site inspection reports as well. But if you'd had that report, this incident may have been flagged up prior to it happening. So we recommended it, we told them, but it's not worth fighting yourself to the death for these things. You have to just accept that it is what it is and try not to lose any sleep over it. As long as you can go to sleep and you're not looking over your shoulder thinking, oh, I should have done that, I should have done that. If you can say, I've told you, got it in writing, look, I'll do the best we can. That's all you can do.
I think you recently posted about an AGM meeting that you kind of went like a bit, what did someone kick off like massively, one of the directors, or I can't remember, you posted something on LinkedIn recently. Was it one of your team that attended?
It was the it was an AGM down in West Dorset where it wasn't a director that kicked off. It was this was where one of the owners just didn't like the directors, got really worked up with the directors, and they started arguing, and it was about to get physical. Helen tried and break it up, but this person was basically going to take a swing. I rushed straight over to try and get involved because I'm not having this. So I got Helen out of the way to avoid anything, and he took a swing at me. He ended up on the floor. And as a consequence of that, I've now got my SIA door supervisor license. So I know how to do physical inspections. I didn't want to have to go on a course to be a qualified bouncer, to wear the little thing on my arm to police resident meetings for grown adults when they can't argue, when they can't talk. But ultimately, that's just, we got to do it. So I spent a week learning how to escort people out of a building safely. But ultimately, it was actually our PI insurance and said, look, if I have to take someone to the floor, where do I stand? And they were like, what a random conversation that is. And they said, well, if you've got your door supervisor license, then theoretically you've hit a required standard. So should you then get an accusation of assault or whatever, then we'll cover your defence costs because you've reached that competency.
Sure, that's another license to carry and to go.
It is. It's another thing.
Therapist, mediator.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I've got because of that, I've got my SIA CCTV license as well. Because of that, which was a separate course, which means I'm now licensed by the SIA to view and assess CCTV, which again is quite helpful. I would suggest that everyone, it's one person in an organisation gets that little badge, allows you to deal with the GDPR side of things. But ultimately, it's nuts that I have to do that. But it is what it is, and it provides some reassurance to my staff. So if my staff know there's going to be a particular incident or I think it's going to be a bit twitchy, I go along, become the designated premise supervisor, wear the badge, and I give people the lecture, which is let's keep this professional. But ultimately, we are talking about people's homes. It is an emotive subject. If you're wanting, $2,000 from each of them to fix something that's not of their fault, but ultimately is their responsibility, some people might struggle to afford that. Some people might be panicking about, well, how am I going to do that? Some people might thinking, well, I simply can't pay that. I'm going to lose my home. So we have to accept that it is an emotive area. People get emotional when these illogical things come along. And we have to be prepared to be able to deal with that. And that's why I say to my staff, when someone's getting shirty or shitty or whatever, I said, do not take it personally. A lot of the time, they're not having a go at you. They're having a go at the situation. Your job, don't take it personally. If they go, and you are rubbish, they go, that's fine, that's different. But if they go, oh, this is just ridiculous, and this and that, and I'm going to complain about this. They're just annoyed at the situation. They're not annoyed at you. When it becomes personal, fine, deal with it that way. But we've almost kind of sleepwalked into ability where as soon as someone raises their voice or gets shirty, we're like, no, how dare you? But actually, we have to forget, and this is back to the relationship building. We have to understand that we're all humans.
Yeah, and I think we do, and I think it's vice versa in the relationship between leaseholders and property managers. They're amazing people we work with, and grateful for all the directors that voluntarily are doing.
Yeah, you and me we wouldn't be doing this job if we didn't have a vast majority of our clients and leaseholders and owners just being amazing people. There's not enough money in the world would make me have to have a client base that was full of people that I didn't like. So yeah, we've cultivated our various organisations to have those people that make us happy and make us want to come into work. And if there's clients that don't, then you just deal with it, make a commercial decision and deal with it. But it's I'm happy with what we've got as a portfolio, and we're not interested in growth. We're interested in quality and margins. And I think
Yeah.
I think everyone's pretty much on the same page with that now.
And that's an amazing advice. Like, just not take it personal, because it isn't, in a way it is to them. And when we also, I think, actually, as property manager, we take it personal sometimes, because on certain situations, the situation that you've worked on very long time, trying to resolve a matter, and then you get that shouty, person on the other side. And then, of course, you take it personal, and I'll put the phone down and I'll start crying, because I'm like, oh, I've done so much, and he doesn't hear me, or she doesn't hear me, and it's like, take a deep breath, and kind of that meditating before work. Really, it's what I do nowadays. It does help.
You've got to, absolutely. I've said to one of my colleagues, I said, if you getting worked up, go and scream into a pillow for a couple of minutes, and then come back and you'll feel a lot better. Go for a walk, just disconnect quickly, because if you can feel that blood pressure boiling, you're like, I'm gonna, so you just stop, end the call politely, just go and switch off, do something different.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, I said, when you come home from work, do not, if you want to work late, fine. If you're going to put some hours in and bank it against time off and lieu, fine. But do not start working the moment you get home. Do nothing for like the first couple of hours. Go for a walk, watch something silly on YouTube, have some dinner. Then if you want to open your laptop or computer for an hour or so later in the evening, fine. But you need that break, otherwise you'll never switch off. And that's not me as a business owner, that's just me as a human. I did my mental health first aider qualification because it was important that I was able to spot when people are getting stressed out, myself included. And it's spotting when people are just taking it too personally. And you and me have seen people that they're just like a nervous wreck, and you have to go, look, it's just a job. It's just a job.
But a lot of property managers are leaving the industry as well, because of that high pressure that is perceived, on the other side most of the times as well. So,
I think there's pressure that's put on themselves, and also I think management, if someone's really good at their job and is happy to do more and more and more, because of the lack of available staff and the influx of new clients, we almost accidentally give them more work than perhaps they're able to handle, because they're so eager to do it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're overwhelmed by it, and then they leave. So I think, us as managers and business owners, we need to be looking at their portfolios and going, look, I know you want to do more stuff, but I'd rather you did what you have done really well than take on loads of stuff and just do it adequately and then burn yourself out.
I definitely agree on that. And I think it's important for the management team to look after the team below, because it is for us to monitor. And sometimes we do have, Karita is a bit like that. My team, she just works relentlessly, and I'm like, you've got to take a break, close your laptop now, go and do something. But it's because I have so many emails, go do it, I've got to respond, and I'm like, just assess what's urgent, what it is that wait, So, but yeah, it's the that's the impact the industry can have, and I think it's important for us to support the team. And I think a lot of companies now do, with mental health and understanding, with women going through menopause and so, like so many situations. So it's great that we actually taking good care of each other, and as an industry as well. We have the team.
I mean, I think my mantra is, I'd rather lose a client than lose a member of staff. And I've got this enviable record that I've never lost a single property manager in the 10 years where they've willingly left my organisation to go work somewhere else. Not a single one of them. And everyone I speak to, they go, how the hell how are you I said, no, not bribing with cash. It's just creating a supportive environment and making them aware that if I have to sack a client to keep them because of the way they're treating you, then that's what we'll do. Where I get called a socialist business owner all the bloody time. But yeah, without my team, without my staff, I don't have a business. So it's important that they feel supported. But yeah, if a client's making one of my staff members cry, or they're upset, or they're not able to sleep because of it, the client gone, just like that. I'm just not having that. No. It's
What?
fine. And then, yeah.
Yeah. What's your current state on what's your take on the current state of the management industry?
I think we need, without sounding too controversial, we don't fly our flag very well in the world. We get a lot aimed at us, but we're not batting it back. We haven't got someone that's just sort of organising rallies, marches, organising protests, or gathering petitions to push back on legislation. We've the TPI are doing a good job in representation, in government consultations and training and development, but we almost need a bit of a lobbyist, is probably the best way to put it. Someone that's happy to just go and bat for property managers, make themselves unpopular with the establishment, but prove to them actually you can pass whatever legislation you like. If you haven't got property managers willingly able to do it, then it's absolutely pointless. So, the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act committee stages, that to me that was a defining moment. They had 2 weeks listening to these sort of lobby groups and the various leasehold aligned industry groups, which completely agree was important. And our industry was afforded 2 hours. Now I can see why most of the legislation that's passed is absolutely pointless and contradicts itself and is really badly written. And that's why, other than one item, nothing has been brought into regulation whatsoever, which tells you all you need to know. Because they don't engage with us. But equally, we should be beating a path to their door, going, no, enough, right? Or going to the BBC or going to the Telegraph and going, that story is technically incorrect. This rich door, poor door stuff, the service charge has gone up, the insurance has gone up, I can't afford it. And go, well, maybe if you'd asked her if her and her fellow residents could stop leaving their taps on or unplugging their washing machine pipes and flooding the flats below, they wouldn't have such high insurance premiums. But it's very easy to just aim it at us. And I think what we should be doing is we need to be fighting back. And whether that's the TPI, which I suspect they probably won't want to take that position because they're doing strategic work in other areas. But yeah, I think we don't give ourselves the credit that we should be giving ourselves, whether it's locally or nationally.
Which was a question I also had, is where do you see management in the next few years?
I think the M&As will continue. I think there will be a lot less choice out there, but also I think there will be a lot more professionality out there. Those independent agents that are still remaining will have no shortage of clients queuing up at their doors. So there is an opportunity for them to be able to grow at their pace. That will also help with competition for staff as well, because I know lots of staff that prefer smaller, more dynamic organisations to the nationals. So all these M&As, I know for a fact in our area, whenever these happen, the talent pool is flooded and you can take your pick of some really good people. So I think there will always be opportunities for good people and good properties. Quality, margins, not interested in turnover. I'm interested in surrounding myself
values and good culture that you have built. So any closing thoughts to property managers or any advice that you may want
for property managers? I think just you're all doing an amazing job, and just don't let it whatever it is get to you, whether it's language, whether it's systems, whether it's pressure, legislation, because it's coming from all areas. Just keep going, don't burn yourself out, and make sure you look after yourselves, because there's amazing property managers out there and they sell themselves short all the time. And I think if you can just not let it get to you, you will thrive. You will get your qualifications. You will become management. You just need to just stay calm, scream into a pillow now and again, and it'll be fine.
There is a great support out there as well.
There's loads. I mean, LMP events. If you come to an LMP event, come find me afterwards, and I'm happy to chat with you. I've got loads and loads of sage advice of going from a property manager that was working out of a drawer in a filing cabinet to a business that's got 17 staff and 3 offices. If you can think of a challenge, I've probably done it, probably failed the first time and then successfully dealt with it the second time. So I'm more than happy to have a chat with anyone about what it actually is to be a property manager in 2025.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ben. I really hope that you will come again, and there is so much to be discussed still in the
No,
industry.
thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.